Off-road style vehicles have exploded in popularity really since COVID. Companies like Honda and Subaru with their trail sport and wilderness models have gone beyond just rugged looks and actually given those vehicles off-road capability with lifted suspensions and skid plates. This is the all-new Nissan Rogue Rock Creek, and it aims to take advantage of that off-road lifestyle. But the question is, does it actually have off-road chops, or is it just an appearance package? That's what we're going to find out today by taking a look outside, inside. I'm going to show you some of the features and technology. We're going to try and cram a bike in the back to see how usable this off-road SUV is. And last but not least, we're going to take it on the road to see what it's like to drive. Starting with the looks, as we always do, it does at least look the part of an off-roader or a CUV off-roader, doesn't it? Comment below with what you think about the looks of the Rogue Rock Creek. It does have a revised front end compared to the regular Rogue, and no, those are not toe points where those red pieces are in the front, which would typically indicate toe points. It does also come with a tubular roof rack with the Rock Creek. You're also going to get some 17-inch wheels, which is downsized compared to the regular vehicle. That gives you some meatier tires. These are Falcon Wild Peak all-terrain tires, which are known to be pretty good off-road. Last but not least, outside of some badging, you're getting some exclusive colors here, and this one is rather aptly named Boulder Gray. Under the hood is where things get a little bit interesting, at least a little different compared to a lot of other CUVs in this space. This is actually a 1.5 liter, 3-cylinder turbocharged engine. Most other cars in this space are 4 cylinders, maybe the same displacement, but interesting that they're going with the 3-cylinder here. It does have an interesting growl. Once we get it on the road, you will see that. It does make decent power for a 3-cylinder, I guess you could say. 201 horsepower and 225 pound-feet of torque, so it does have a little more grunt down low. Now this is an all-wheel drive model, but it is a CVT transmission, so keep that in mind. Now in terms of all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, you are going to have some different fuel economies depending on which model you're going to get, but in general, this one specifically is getting 27 miles to the gallon city, 32 miles to the gallon highway. If you like traditional, straightforward interiors, the Rogue really is for you. It's kind of funny because in many ways, Nissan is the new Toyota, being that Toyota used to be the one with the tried and true old school technology, but they've kind of since moved on and are adopting new technology, where Nissan is kind of using that technology of yesteryear, specifically here in this interior. But that is in many ways a good thing because it does feel a bit endearing in here, just how straightforward this is. It kind of just feels like a traditional old school car that you get in with no fuss and it just works. It really kind of all focuses around a lot of physical controls, although you do have a screen here for your infotainment, and frankly that screen, the resolution is not great. It's a bit slow to respond, but it does have wired Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Keep in mind, not wireless, wired. So that's mostly what you're going to interact with, but you do have physical knobs here for the volume. You have also physical buttons here for getting around your menu structure and your seek. The other big thing is physical for your HVAC, including your heated seats. This is something that I complained about so much in that Subaru. As much as I love those wilderness models, digging through that screen to get to the heated seats is just an annoyance. You have a physical button here and it's just so straightforward. Now, in terms of the rest of the interior, it feels quite nice in here. They don't have a lot of piano black, which is excellent. There's a little bit on the dash here, but they've done more of a textured plastic here in the center console and also on the door cards here. That's a nice touch. You're getting physical speedometer and tachometer as well, although you do get a screen in the center, which will give you information specifically around your distance and cruise control and stuff like that. Their adaptive cruise control and sort of lane centering, in my opinion, is behind some of the Toyotas and Hondas of the world. It's a little bit bouncy between lanes, and it also yells at you a lot for getting close to departing the lane when you really don't. But it is useful, especially on road trips, to have that adaptive cruise control. Now, what do you get with the Rock Creek? Well, it's worth noting that you do get hill descent control in here, and they've revised the traction or stability control in here for the Rock Creek to be a little bit off-road capable. How much does that really matter if you're just on like a fire road? that's up to you. Last thing we need to talk about here are the seats, which are excellent. I like the kind of two-tone or two different types of textures that you have in the seat, a little bit of a cloth insert, and then the leatherettes on the side and the back. Of course, with the Rock Creek, you're getting that engraved here on the seat, which looks fantastic. And they're overall just supportive without being too tight. They have lumbar support. Excellent seats overall. I'm actually really impressed with them, as are the back seats. You know, for as small as this SUV is relative to other SUVs, they've done an excellent job at utilizing space. I can sit behind myself. I'm 6'1". I have plenty of headroom. I have plenty of knee room as well. So it's really, really impressive, like I said, what they've been able to do. And I think that's probably, outside of the straightforwardness, a big part of the reason that you buy it is that it's an effective use of space. Speaking of effective use of space, let's see if we can fit a bike in the back. Even before we get into the bike test, an underrated feature that the Rogue has is its basically completely flat folding rear seats. Nearly every SUV has rear seats which collapse, however very few actually fold completely flat. Car campers will find this very good to know because you can fairly easily sleep in the back, something that might be useful for a vehicle marketed towards adventure seekers. As for the bike, high marks here as well. I've mentioned this SUV is smaller than things like the CR-V, however the rear opening is actually larger and I can fit my bike back there without taking the front tire off. That's a win in my book. As always, if you enjoy the bike test, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss future content. All right, let's go for a ride in the Rogue Rock Creek. What I'm excited about is we get to experience what the Rock Creek is all about, but we also get to experience what just the Nissan Rogue is about. And why can we do that? Well, because ultimately they didn't change really much mechanically. We've already talked about some of the changes, but in terms of the suspension, it is identical, more or less. There's no more ground clearance, I should say. They didn't lift it. There is alleged that they retuned the shocks themselves, the dampers, but pretty positive you wouldn't be able to tell. But that said, the fact that they didn't change it and you still get that 8.2 inches of ground clearance, the ride is good. I think it's exactly what it should be. It's sort of not super plush, but it's compliant enough. It doesn't beat you up by any means. But the nice part about it not being too plush is that it has great body control. So we're in mixed conditions here, so I can't really push it too much, but maybe a little bit around this dry portion of the turn here. But there's not a ton of body roll. A little bit, but it's well composed, and that's what I like. And like I said, even for the Rock Creek, this feels appropriate. So even though they didn't change the suspension, the biggest thing I would have liked to have seen is them to lift it, because then you're actually talking about giving more ground clearance and making it a little more appropriate for off-road. The other thing that they did not do, which a lot of other manufacturers like Toyota and Subaru will do in this category, is give it skid plates, at least at the bare minimum. This car does not have skid plates either, so you do need to be careful with the same amount of ground clearance as a regular one and no skid plates. I think what we're concluding is that ultimately this is more or less an appearance package, right? You do get some bits like the carrier on top that you could maybe put like a rooftop tent or something like that, and obviously the cosmetic bits. But other than that, it's really just a Rogue, and I guess in some ways that's good and bad, right? Because it's bad because it's not that different other than looks, but it's good in that fact that this base Rogue is pretty decent. I mean, for the price, I think you always have to caveat that with the fact that this is a very affordable SUV. It's nice enough in here. I think the engine and transmission are probably my only mechanical complaints, just being that this transmission, it's a 3-cylinder 1.5 liter, so it's got that variable compression. So being that it's a small displacement engine in an SUV, it really has to get wound up in order to make power. And when you pair that with something like a CVT, a couple things happen. First of all, it does have decent torque, just kind of like once it does build a little bit of boost. But what it lacks is sort of any sort of top-end power. So it doesn't feel particularly quick. In fact, I just got out of, if you watched the video last week, I just got out of that new Chevy Traverse, which has the 2.5 liter turbo engine. That's a 4-cylinder. And that thing was quick compared to this car. And that's a bigger vehicle. That's a 3-row SUV. So down on power a little bit. And the other thing that happens with the CVT is, like, I'm going to put my foot down. CVTs tend to be a little bit rubber bandy already. And then when you pair that with a 3-cylinder turbo high-strung engine, you put your foot down, you're kind of waiting a lot, and then it kicks in, and it's just this rubber bandy power band is really the best way I can describe it. But that said, it is at least effective, and the fuel economy is good. That's really the main thing that you're after for here, right? Look at the view today. Brought you guys out here near Buena Vista, just spending Thanksgiving out here near the hot springs, doing some snowshoeing. Absolutely gorgeous area. So I thought you guys might like the scenery here. But this has been a good steed, and in all fairness, I drove out in a snowstorm in this thing. It was money. I mean, there was some cars that were on the side of the road. This thing is not on winter tires by any means, but it does have these Falcon Wild Peaks, which are excellent all-terrain tires. And I had no problems on very snow-covered roads. These parts of these roads are very icy. And in fact, what I'm most surprised about is the road noise is not that bad with them. Typically, you put all-terrain knobby tires on a car, and it'll you generate like a roar, especially at highway speeds. This one, it really isn't too bad. It's honestly pretty well insulated, which is, I think, another point to this vehicle. But the all-wheel drive system worked well. I never was in like a very slippery situation. Like I said, it was kind of dicey there for a while. I'll show you guys a little bit of a clip. I didn't want to film during that time because it was a little bit hit or miss, especially with other people around. But I've been impressed with this thing overall. I kind of went in, to be honest, with lower expectations just because of the price point. But overall, what I really like about it is how usable it is, how straightforward it is. Even though I've already complained a bit about this infotainment being very dated, it is in a way endearing just because it's so simple and easy to get along with. You have your physical HVAC controls, which is fantastic, and nothing really frustrates you. There's excellent visibility. The seating position is good. And the last thing that I will say is these seats are quite nice here. They're a few way adjustable and actually have a lumbar adjustment as well, which I always say I have a crummy back, so that's really nice to have. And they hold you well. They're reasonably supportive. And it was about a 3-hour drive out here because of the snow, and I was very comfortable. So heated seats, heated steering wheel with the Rock Creek. This is what it's made for, right? So bravo to Nissan for making an affordable, decent little product here. There's not too many Nissans left, really, and you kind of wonder what's going to happen with Nissan when you always see in the news that they're operating, on very thin funding right now. But this is, I think, probably their best product, and there's a reason that you see them all over the place. If you made it this far in the video, guys, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the scenery as well. But I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.